All right, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. It's Dr. E. Today's date is October 24th, 2022. All right, I'm bringing to you a story that I truly had no idea about, right? What inspired this story was I was having a conversation with a very good and dear friend of mine who actually lives in Nigeria. And we were talking about a couple different things because her birthday was a couple of days ago, and somehow we just kind of got on the subject of the war or whatever, just general conversation. And I was talking about how Russia invaded Ukraine and this and that, and that was messed up, all those innocent people dying. And she said yes, she says, I feel my heart goes out to all the innocent women, and children, all the innocent people who are dying, under this unprovoked attack. But she said, but Ukraine is not innocent either. I was like, well, what do you mean? Because when she said that, I was like, how so? She said, because the way they treat Nigerians and the way they treated Nigerians, she said they're racist in Ukraine. And I promise you, I try to be in the know of everything that's going on. I mean, I'm descended from Yoruba, so yes, I was born and raised in America, but you all know what time it is, right? We're connected to all those secondary, African tribes, those are our people, and when she started kind of breaking it down, I was like, so I had to go, do a search to kind of find out what she was talking about. And sure enough, I found the story, about how, they were treating the Nigerian students. So these are young Nigerians over in Ukraine. So I find myself being a little taken aback that I didn't know about that, because I pretty much check the news feeds every day, but I didn't see anything on that was going on over there or whatever. So it kind of gave me a different outlook. So once I kind of found out some information, I said, well, don't worry about it. I'll bring it to the to the mass. I'll bring it to our people on my channel. And so, here it is. So, this is in no way trying to, vilify Ukraine or trying to say, oh, Ukrainians are bad people or anything like that. But I'm just saying, if you want to report a story, you got to be thorough. You got to report all sides to the story. And this particular side and how they are treating our young Nigerian brothers and sisters over there, especially trying to get up out of there, was just unsatisfactory. So I want to report that. I don't want to just, report one side. I want to be, objective as objective as I can. And I honestly just did not know that this was going on. So shout out to my friend. She knows who she is, and let's go ahead and get into the story about what they're doing, or what's happening with our young Nigerian brothers and sisters over there in Ukraine. All right, and here we go. This first story here is coming from Euro News. And it's by Sister Vivian Dovi. And it says the treatment Africans are facing in Ukraine is despicable. But why are we surprised? Wow, I'm serious. I'm guilty. I had no idea this was going on. All right, and the story goes: when Russia invaded Ukraine on February 24th, civilians attempted to flee the country. The borders of Poland, Hungary, and Romania became oversubscribed quickly, leaving days-long queues of people trying to escape a war zone. Among those queuing were those of Ukrainian descent, but also a large number of African students and professionals. As the situation got worse and worse, another issue became evident and grew more pressing. Africans trying to escape Ukraine were being racially discriminated against. Videos quickly spread online of Africans being prevented from leaving the country as authorities operated on a Ukrainian first policy. Ukrainian men, women, and children were allowed to board trains and buses to the borders first. Even if an African made it onto a train or bus, they were removed. Wow. In one instance, a Nigerian woman was told, if you are black, you should walk. Once most Ukrainians were evacuated, only then did Africans stand a chance. Unfortunately, the harrowing stories do not stop there. Africans were physically attacked by the police and endured maltreatment from those in authority, and many were left stranded and helpless in Ukraine with freezing temperatures. If they did make it past the Ukrainian border, they experienced challenges with neighboring countries, and some were obliged to turn around. Many of us watching around the world were enraged, questioning how there was room for racism in a matter of life or death. But honestly, why are we surprised? And it goes on, what we've witnessed is not isolated to the war in Ukraine. The discrimination Africans face, especially those who are born and raised on the continent, is an accumulation of prejudice committed worldwide, which continues to pit them at the bottom of the global order. There are countless examples we can see in the world of travel, migration, and of course, media coverage. Holding a passport from a country in Africa requires a person to jump through hoops to travel, namely in the form of visas. That is so very true. Me and my friend was talking about this a while back. Applications for Africans can be long, costly, and precarious. Sometimes a visa can even be denied because of how the official who grants them feels on that day. Right. Stories of Africans needing to prove more than what is required on their visa applications, such as showing they have additional disposable income upon travel, are all too familiar. Feeling at risk of being put on the next flight back to their respective countries is not uncommon either. Meanwhile, those with strong passports experience swift visa processes and enjoy their trip. While Africans are labeled migrants, lazy, poor, likely to be a nuisance, those from the Western world who decide to do the same thing are praised as expats. And then there's a story from this young lady. Her name is Jessica. It says, Nigerian student Jessica has kept in touch with us about her journey out of Ukraine. She is among the hundreds of thousands of people fleeing the country and one of many #Africans in Ukraine who have described facing racism at the borders. And she was reporting to the BBC News for Africa. And it says immigration is another hurdle. Where geography and politics combine, obtaining visas and permanent residency can be long, tedious, and often redundant processes for Africans trying to move to another country. While Africans are labeled migrants, lazy, poor, likely to be a nuisance, those from the Western world who decide to do the same thing are praised as expats with a hard-working attitude and disposable income. If those who migrate should attempt to assimilate, they can still be seen as different to the dominant culture of the country, and there is a reluctance to accept them. For instance, a Nigerian doctor who had lived in Ukraine for years, who spoke Ukraine fluently and selflessly helped Ukrainians in the long queues, was forced to go to the back and start again. And there's a little thing here from Dr. Orakpo. She said, please, Nigerian students of TNMU, from the dean's office, do not use Krakowets to get into Poland. They aren't allowing Nigerians. Very urgent. Wow. And it says unfavorable media coverage over time. The problems of visas and immigration are exacerbated by the continuous unfavorable media coverage of Africans in the continent, but particularly refugees. Africa and its people are often seen as dangerous and poor, which is a strategy that has been sold over a very long period of time to people outside of the continent and contributes to this negative portrayal. So when Africans or anyone from non-Western countries flee war, they are met with disdain and refusal while dealing with treacherous conditions. For this reason, it has been shocking to watch the coverage of Ukrainian refugees and how countries have prioritized opening their borders to them. A journalist mentioning how emotional it was to see European people with blue eyes and blonde hair being killed in such unfortunate events is telling of the narratives weaved into many people's mindset. Meanwhile, many Africans have been regularly rejected as refugees for years. Wow. It says, to many, tragedy can only be determined by the victim's proximity to whiteness. So when systemic racism is prevalent in normal times, the structure sets Africans up for failure in time of crisis. The systems in place do not benefit Africans, and as a result, they are left behind. Racism, unfortunately, does not get left behind in times of tragedy, warfare, or disaster. In fact, it will only get worse. Wow. I honestly had no idea. I had not seen a story on that anywhere. Shout out to my friend for bringing it to my attention. That's messed up. I mean, they do. I mean, they treat African countries and nations like, I mean, it's just messed up, man. Like the article said, Africans got to jump through hoops to get in certain countries and stuff. But a lot of other countries don't have to go through that, man. I mean, anyway, I ain't gonna even go there. But here's a article from a perspective of a student that was actually trying to get out. She says, this is by Miss Erica Angulu and Char Adams, and it says in Lviv, Ukraine. The title is "I'm Feeling Hopeless: African Students Desperate After Escaping Sumy War Zone." And it says hundreds of African students from Ukraine's Sumy State University managed to escape the war-torn country, many by bus, train, and taxi, after days of Russian bombardment. Now they're taking refuge in Hungary and struggling with the uncertainty of what comes next. I've invested 5 years of my life in Sumy State University. I'm just confused. I don't know what's next, said medical student Angel Abi. She's only 23. I just need help from anywhere. I really can't put it into words how hard it has been. I feel like mentally I'm not stable. Wow, man, oh my God, wow. Residents from the besieged northeastern city of Sumy began evacuating on March 8th after Russia agreed to a ceasefire to create safe evacuation corridors across the country. The night before the evacuation, several strikes in the city hit residential buildings and killed civilians. More than 3 million people have fled Ukraine since the invasion began February 24th, including hundreds of foreign students who filled about 20 buses out of Sumy. African students in Ukraine have led their own rescue efforts, creating networks to connect students across the country and provide resources, as non-Ukrainians say they have been met with discrimination and abuse while trying to escape. But student organizers had no way of reaching those in Sumy, which was left without electricity, food, water, or heat. Students from Nigeria studying medicine at the school described a harrowing ordeal of being trapped in dormitories for days without electricity. The trauma from hearing bomb sounds and missiles have kind of affected me mentally, Tolu Kolapo Bello, 21, a fifth-year medical student, said, adding that sometimes she and other students would spend days in a bunker. Sometimes we just hear the alarm for us to go underground to the bunker. Everyone running around. We're hearing sounds. The walls are vibrating. We have to go to the basement and it's dark. We don't know when to come out or what's going to happen next. Sometimes bombs go off as early as 5 a.m. and we will still have to remain there until afternoon, sometimes all day. At some point, I just felt like all hope was lost. Many of the students escaped to Hungary with nothing but their passports and the clothes on their backs. Several students described relying on taxis to escape and drivers demanding hundreds of dollars per passenger, making it nearly impossible to get to trains heading to border towns. After finally making it to the train, students traveled for days before arriving in Budapest. African students living in Ukraine have reported being denied entry to trains, beaten, or left stranded in border towns while trying to flee. Students recalled being the last aboard and waiting hours to do so. Passengers pushed African students and told them, "Don't touch me," Kalapo Bello said. "It was very, very hurtful," she said. Ukraine and racism, they still have a long way to go concerning that. Several students have been staying in Airbnbs in Hungary with the help of the disaster relief nonprofit Global Empowerment Mission in partnership with American TV personality Bethany Frankel's Be Strong organization. The groups have assisted nearly 300 African students in fleeing Ukraine. So, yeah, may the Most High have mercy and watch and shield all of those young Nigerian brothers and sisters and everybody that's in a similar position as them. I mean, I had no idea this was going on, but I prayed that, the Most High, touch them and hold them up in his bosom and protect them from all harm and bring them on through safely. I mean, here they are trying to get a higher education, and I mean, it just doesn't matter what we do, what we try to do. It's just like we can't escape the curses and the treatment, right? When you look like us, man, it's so unfortunate and sad. But I pray that the Most High will hold them up and guide them and bless them, to get through this ordeal and get where they need to get to. So I hope y'all enjoyed this presentation. I had to bring it forth. I told my friend I would because I had no idea. But yeah, it just kind of puts things in a slightly different perspective for me, though. Like, wow, is that right? You know what I mean? So, it's all good. But until next time, this is Dr. E signing off. I'm saying Shalom, elect, and God bless Nigeria.